Welcome to EPG Pathshala in the paper of open source technology and in the subject of information technology. In this module, we will discuss about processes of Linux. So, to begin with, we will discuss what is a process, what are threads. We will see certain commands like ps top to display the processes that are running, to list the processes within the system. We will see some other commands that will be able to manage processes. If we want to kill a process, if we want to bring it into background, foreground, then we will discuss those commands. And finally, we will see how to schedule processes. So, our learning objectives are starting with the concept of process, listing of processes, management and scheduling of processes. So, let us begin with the introduction of process. Friends, any program when it executes, it becomes a process. So, a process is an entity that is being executed by CPU. We can also say that a process may have one or multiple threads. When we say thread, they are tasks, individual tasks that make a process or a program. Again, a process may create several child processes or threads. So, there can be relationship between a process and child process, we call it parent process and their child process, or a process may have multiple threads. Multiple tasks can be achieved by a single program. Usually, when we write C programs, it becomes a single process. Our C, C++, Java program, they are all single processes. But suppose if we are using fork function, then fork creates child processes. So, when we are using such kind of APIs, we can create number of child processes, or we can also create threads using pthread create APIs. So, a process is an entity that runs on CPU and it also requires resources like memory, IO devices, etc. And the role of operating system is it allots the resources to the process. The scheduler will schedule in such a way that overall the optimum utilization can be achieved throughout the system. Now, let us see process types. Processes can be classified by and large into interactive process. So, when the user is interacting, when the user gives some input through keyboard or through mouse, those processes are interactive processes. Even the graphical user interface, we call it interactive process. The examples are like bash, the shell itself. Then there is links command, it is a browser, command line browser. Top command is also interactive. So, these are the examples of interactive process. Then there are batch processes. So, these processes are usually very large process. They are intended to build records or to process huge files line by line and so on. Generally, batch processes are IO dependent process and they execute in FIFO manner. So, there is a queue created and the batch processes, if there are n number of process, they run in the queue one by one. Update B is an example, this is a command which can run as a batch process. This can be used with the locate command. You can explore this command using the manual of Linux. The third kind of process, they are known as daemons. Daemons, they are server processes, usually servers, web server, Zynet, SSH, cron D, these are all daemons. The standard convention is when a process name ends with D, it is daemon. So, daemons are such process they run in background. As soon as the server starts, the Linux system starts, these daemons will start automatically and they can run throughout the system unless the system is shut down or some command is given to shut down these processes. So, daemons are non-interactive and they run in background. Then we will discuss threads. Threads are said to be lightweight process. Thread is not different from process, thread is also a part of process. threads are lightweight process. So, when a huge process is to be divided into subtasks, then we create those many number of threads. For example, Firefox browser or the Genome terminal, they can be threaded programs. Let us take one example. Suppose you are doing internet surfing, you are opening 4-5 different websites. So, for each website or each tab, the browser may create a thread. So, overall browser can become a single process which is made up of multiple threads. The number of tabs can be number of threads for a given browser, and threads can also be kernel level threads. So, if the user is not creating thread, but the operating system itself is creating thread, we call it kernel level thread. Examples are like kswapd, ksoft migration, etc. So, these are the threads, they are created by kernels for efficient scheduling of resources. So, these are the different processes. Few processes like kernel threads, they can be system processes. Daemons can also be called a system process, whereas interactive processes are generally created by users, batch processes are created by user, and user level threads which we create using Java programming or C++ programming, they can be user level threads. So, this is the brief summary of different processes that can be created. Let us move ahead. Each process will have attributes. For example, when I am creating a process, I am creating a process that has a unique identifier, that is PID. Process has identifier. If it is a child process, there has to be a parent. So, there can be a parent child relation. As I said, a process is made up of thread. So, there will be a thread ID along with the process ID. There is a unique thread ID for each process. Then some identifiers like the user who started the process, the group that started the process, access rights to that process for the user and access rights for the process to the group. So, these are certain attributes given to a process. Apart from these identifiers, there are few other attributes like state of process. So, when we run a program, it is not necessary that the program is always running within CPU. The program may be in ready state, CPU might be doing some other work. This is done when there is a single core CPU. A single core CPU cannot run multiple programs together. So, what happens? While one program is running, rest of the program stays in memory. They are waiting to be executed, we call them in ready state. Or suppose if a program wants to download something from internet, then under those circumstances the program is in block state. While it is downloading, CPU won't execute that program. So, if a program is waiting for some IO event, it may go in a waiting or block state. There are different states of program like running, ready, suspended. In Linux and in Unix, there is something like zombie state. So, these are the other attributes of a program. Apart from states, a program may be doing some kind of accounting, CPU, how many CPU cycles are used, such kind of accounting is also a part of a process. So, in Linux, there is a process control block which stores all these details. However, we are not focusing our discussion on the entire attributes of process. We will see how to run processes, how to stop them in this module. So, the first thing that comes in our mind is displaying of a process. PS command in Linux will give the number of processes, it is about process status. So, this is a simple example. Over here PS command is issued at the terminal and you can see two processes, and each process has a process ID 3233, 3859, they are the process ID and the terminal from where it were fired and the time taken by that process. So, this is a very primary PS command. If I am executing PS command from terminal without any options, without any arguments, then it will display the processes created by that terminal. It is not displaying the entire process of system. In this PS command, it displays two processes as you have seen, one is bash, that is the shell that is running, and PS itself. So, when I am typing PS, it becomes a process in itself and it is being executed along with the shell. So, when you simply type PS command, it displays two processes, one is bash, that is the shell that is running, and the PS command itself. Further, we will see if we are using some background processes, then by issuing the PS command, we can also list all those background processes. Let us see one more example of PS command. Over here, you can see that PS command takes arguments EF. So, it is listing all processes throughout the system. These are the processes, the CMD is command, all processes that are being executing by the system at particular instance are being listed. You can see the process IDs, user ID who created the process, their IDs, their parent processes, and these different attributes are being listed by the PS command. Over here I am limiting my screen to 15 processes. So, I have listed just 15 processes. There is another PS command, PS and the options are AUX. So, over here you can see the listing is in some different format. This listing is in one format and this is in another format. Earlier days there were Unix, this is system 5 kind of output and this is BSD kind of output. But in both the cases I am providing options like EF and like AUX. Along with these options, if I want to display the threads, then I can give PS-ELF as an option. Let us see one more screen where I am customizing my columns. For instance, I do not want few columns, I want my own columns listed. If I do not want user ID, I can skip that particular column. So, PS command also takes arguments in the form of column names that I want to see in the output. So, in this screen you can see I am providing PS and the options are AXO. I am providing the column names like when the process started, what is its priority, what is the process ID and what is the command. You can see I am listing just 15 processes, I am not interested in viewing all the process. Now, I am specifying the start time, the priority of a process, the process ID and the command, that is the program that has created the process. You must note that init is PID 1. So, all processes spam from the init process. Init is the generator of rest of the processes and in most of the cases init is the parent process of all other processes. So, this is how I can customize my output by specifying the particular column names I am interested in viewing the output. If you want to find out more columns that can be used, you can go through the manual, you can type the command man PS and you can see what many columns can be listed or displayed by the help of PS command. PS command is a huge program, it can display the threads for processes, it can display the context switches for a given process and so on. So, I would encourage you go through the manual of PS command and try different switches, the different options to list the output in different ways. Now, one point that is noted, PS command will display output at a particular instance, it is not real time. In Linux, there are commands that can display real time output. For example, one process is consuming less resource, but immediately after some time it starts consuming more resources. Then there are commands which can display those processes according to some order. So, let us see a few other commands which can be helpful to us. One command is PS tree. Here, as I said, this is a static command. It displays processes in the tree structure. You can see there are processes and their child processes. So, AutoMount has created 4 child processes. These are threads because they are in curly braces. I have given PS tree with some options. So, it is also listing the file name, that are being executed by a process, and in most of the cases the listing is in alphabetical order. The another screen is where we would like to see our process. So, this is another part of PS tree command. You can see bash, the shell program is itself a process of genome terminal. So, genome terminal is a process and bash is its another process. The PS tree command that I have tried over here, through which the tree is generated, is also a process over here. So, this is how we can see the parent child relationship using the PS tree command. Let us see one more command. Kill command can be used to terminate a process. Now, at times what becomes, a user started a process and it keeps on running. Let us say a student is writing a program which goes into infinite loop. So, what will we do? We try to find out the process ID. Using PS command, you can know that this process has gone into infinite loop. So, we can know its PID, process ID, and we can use kill command to stop that process. So, PS command can be executed on another prompt at another terminal. You can try to find out the process ID of the user's program that is running infinitely, and through other command you can kill that process. The option is -9 and the process ID. Now, if I am a user and if I am creating a process, then I have access rights to kill my processes, but I cannot kill someone else's processes. No doubt super user has more powers, more access rights, and the super user can kill some other user's processes. So, this is how unwanted processes or the process that are taking lot of resources can be killed using the kill command. Let us see one more interesting command, that is the top command. Top command is dynamic, or it gives real time output. So, this is not a snapshot, it keeps on running. When we issue top command, the screen goes on moving. Whichever process is consuming more CPU is listed at the top of screen, and this is in sorted order. So, the another process takes less amount of CPU, still less, and so on. So, when we issue the top command, it will list all system processes according to the resources they are using. Now, let us see try to understand the output of this top command. The first line top, it gives the uptime, since how long the system is running. Over here it is 16 minutes. There are 2 users who have logged in, and the overall load of the system, there are 3 numbers, the last 1 minute, last 5 minutes, last 15 minutes. Such kind of statistics is generated using the top command. So, by typing the top command, we can get the uptime, how long the system is running, how many users are there, and what is the load of the system. Right now, it is, since last 1 minute, it is nearly 20% loaded. Then, if we go to the second line, the second line is of tasks command. It gives the statistics of processes. There are total 154 tasks that are running. Out of these 154, 2 are in running mode. These are active, they are being executed by CPU, and rest of the 152 are in sleeping state. There are 0 stop processes and 0 zombie processes. So, this is about process states. There are 2 processes that are in running state and rest of them are in sleeping state. These states can be seen in the column over here. You can see R. So, R is for running. Within the screen, the 2 running process, out of 2, one of them is listed over here, R. Okay, let us now understand the third line. It gives the amount of CPU that is being used. So, this line indicates how much percentage of CPU is used by the user process. The amount of CPU, 1.5% is used by system processes, amount of CPU used by low priority processes, amount of CPU used by the idle processes, ID is for idle processes. Amount of CPU used by waiting processes, over here it is 0. CPU used by the interrupts, hardware interrupts and software interrupts, and the last is steal time. So, the amount of CPU that is used by the steal time. Now, steal is helpful when we are using virtual machines. Over here it shows 0 0, but when we are using virtual machine and the CPU cores are divided, then steal time becomes important. The other two lines, they indicate amount of memory. The system has nearly 3 GB of RAM. How much memory is being utilized, how much of it is free, how much is allotted to buffer, cache, and so on. So, we can list the amount of primary memory and swap space, that is virtual memory, which is being used by the system. Now, this, as I said, this is dynamic, so it keeps on changing. Next line is the header under which all processes are listed. So, process ID is shown over here, the user who created process is shown over here, the nice values, priority, amount of memory utilized, their state, amount of CPU, time, command. Command is the program name for process ID listed over here. The last process is init. You can see init with ID 1. So, init is a process which starts when the system is booted and it keeps on running. As I said, top command is interactive. So, when we type top command, the command prompt goes away and you can see the listing of processes according to some order. Top command also comes with some options. From the shell, when we enter into top command, we will not have access to the dollar prompt. Now, again if we want to come back to the dollar prompt, we type Q. So, by typing the character Q, our interface from top command will be again shifted to the dollar prompt. Apart from Q, there are some other options that are available with the top command. Let us see those options. So, when we type T while using the top command, when we type T, we can hide the initial rows, that is rows 2 and 3 can be made hidden. By typing M, memory information can be hidden. So, what will happen when we type T, these lines will be hidden. When we type M, these lines will be hidden. Unnecessary, if we do not want these lines, we can make it hidden by typing these commands. By typing O, we can list the processes in some sorted order. There are options to change the priority. We can change the nice values, rinse. So, R is the command through which we can change the priority. If we want to kill a process, instead of typing the kill command, we can directly kill process by K option provided with top command. We can enter into configuration screen of top command. We can also select orders interactively by specifying O command. So, what is this configuration? Let us see into detail. As I said, if we enter into configuration, this is a sample configuration screen. The process IDs, username, they are all selected. So, these are being shown on my output. If I want few other details like page fault count, dirty pages count, then I can select these as well. If I type U, this particular will be selected. If I type V, this particular will be selected, and that is how I can configure my output of top command. So, after selection, what will happen? If I type F, I will go into the configuration screen. Again there are characters through which I can select these outputs, and the output of top command will be shown accordingly. As I said, to exit from the screen, here there is one small note we can toggle, and to exit from top command we can press small q. This q will help to quit from the top command. So, this is how we can see processes interactively. Now, let us see how we can schedule processes. While scheduling processes, we can bring a process in background or we can bring in foreground. We can run a process using bg command into background mode, fg command is there for bringing it into foreground. We can suspend a process for some amount of time using the sleep command. Sleep is very helpful while writing shell programs. Few other commands that are helpful are at command. We can schedule a process at particular time. So, at is a command. Another command is batch. Batch command will help to schedule a process when the overall system is load is less. Jobs command will list all the jobs that are being running in background, and cron command can be used to schedule a process at particular interval or in time frames. This is a scheduler. We can configure cron tab to schedule a program or a process at particular date, time and month. Let us see each of them in detail. We will start with the sleep command. Sleep is a command which takes number as input. By default, whatever number we type, it is taken as seconds. If we do not provide any suffix, the default is second. So, in example, the last line shows if I type sleep 100, my terminal, the bash prompt will sleep for 100 seconds. Apart from second, if I want to suspend a process for amount of minutes or hours, I will type -m or -h following the 100 number. Sleep command is helpful while writing shell programs. If I want my program to suspend or if I want to monitor certain instances, I can make it sleep for maybe 1 minute, maybe 10 minutes, 1 hour and so on. So, this is how sleep command is useful. Let us see one more screen where we use sleep command and make a process in background state. So, as you see the first line, I am issuing sleep command sleep 100. After this command, I am using control Z. So, while I fire this command, my terminal, the shell will go into background. So, after sleep 100, if I press control Z, my terminal goes into background, the shell goes into background, and if I type bg, you can see this process is in background. Ampersand indicates a process is in background state. By typing fg, the background process can come in foreground. So, bg command will list the processes that are running in background and fg command will bring the processes that are running in background into foreground. And finally, by pressing control C, I am stopping this process. So, control C will kill my sleep command. Let us see one more example. Over here, I am issuing sort command which will sort a given file. The file name is etc passwd, it is in etc directory. So, sort command will produce some output which I do not want. So, I am redirecting it into /dev/null file. This is a file in which we can redirect our output which we do not want to get displayed on our screen. So, we are sorting a file passwd file that is in etc directory. We are redirecting the output into /dev/null file, and you can see I am using ampersand sign and sign. So, this sort command will go into background. This sort command will become a background command. Now, it is a very small command, it will immediately run and terminate, but still if I say bg, if I type bg command, it will display the background commands. Bg command will display all background commands. Over here it says job has terminated. So, any program when it is executing, Linux treats them as a job, and we can see the output that the job sort has already completed. So, if we want to move any program into background mode, we use ampersand sign. Let us see another command that is about scheduling a process. We can schedule a process at particular time. So, at is the command this is a typical command. I am using at now plus 2. So, what will happen? When I type this command, it will give me a prompt, at prompt. You can see we have by default $prompt, but by typing the at command, it gives us the at prompt. At this prompt, whatever commands I give will be scheduled for execution after 2 days. So, at command takes now as an option, this is one input, 2 days is another input. So, this command cat etc password will be executed after 2 days. This is how at command can be configured. We can give n number of commands at prompt. Suppose I want to write programs backup utility that after 2 days I want to backup my system, then I can use that backup script with the at command. So, what can be the input at my command prompt? I can say at now plus 2 days, then I will get the at prompt and I can enter my program name backup.sh. I can also say update the Linux system. I can also plan antivirus scan. So, these all planned programs or the jobs that are to be done during midnight hours or after some stipulated time, we can combine with the at command. If I am entering 5 different jobs, at command creates a queue of those jobs. So, first command will be executed after 2 days, second may get executed after 5 days and so on. There will be a queue of at commands, the jobs that I have submitted. If I want to display that particular queue, we use atq command. You can see in the screen, after the at command, we have used atq command. So, it displays how many jobs have been submitted. Here I am submitting a single job, cat is a single job, and that is why it is displaying job number 13. In our queue, it is job 13. So, this was a single job that I had scheduled. While scheduling this job, I got 13 as an output, and when I issue the atq command, it shows 13. So, job number 13 is scheduled. Now, if I want to remove this job schedule process, I can type atrm. atrm command along with the job ID will help me to delete the jobs that are in queue. So, at some instance, if I think the job is not required or if I want to remove this particular job from the schedule, I can type atrm along with the job ID, it will help me to remove that job from the queue. And again, if I am displaying atq, you can see there is no job, the job 13 has been removed from atq. So, earlier atq was displaying this job, after deleting it from the queue, you can see now there is no output, atq simply returns the command prompt. Apart from atq, there is batch command. Batch command is almost similar to atq at command, but the major difference is batch command will execute the jobs when the system is relatively idle or when the average load is below some threshold value. Under those circumstances, the batch command will execute. So, generally what happens when we write huge programs, when the program is intended to run for many hours and which takes lot of CPU, then we do not know at what time we want to schedule that program, because it may take more amount of CPU. During office hours, the CPU might be quite busy, and if I am not sure that I want to schedule this program at 10 o'clock or 12 midnight, then I can use batch command. So, the Linux system will automatically know when the overall load of the system is less, the commands or the programs which I have submitted to the batch command will execute at that time. So, if I do not want to schedule a program at particular time, then batch command will be helpful to us. Let us see few more commands. The jobs command will display programs or the jobs that are scheduled or running in background. In this screen, you can see I have submitted 2 jobs, one is sleep 100, the other is sleep 70. They are all submitted in background mode. So, there is ampersand sign. The first job is sleep 100, it returns 1 and process ID. Another job is sleep 70, sleep for 70 seconds in background, it returns number 2 and this is process ID 6611. By typing jobs hyphen L, it displays the jobs that are scheduled in background. These jobs, they are running in background. You can see the command. I submitted 2 commands which are to be executed in background, and you can list those background jobs using the jobs command. Let us move ahead. There is a scheduling utility of cron. Cron is a time based scheduling program and it requires some kind of configuration. There is a cron daemon that is running, we call it cron D. Cron daemon keeps on checking the schedule. So, as a system administrator, what I will do? I will create a cron file. The file will list date, time, at what date, what time I want to run a particular program. Say backup program will have entry in line 1, virus scan program will have entry in line 2, update program will have entry in line 3 and so on. So, a cron file is required. We type those in the cron tab file using the cron editor. We enter the command names that are supposed to be executed at particular instance, and the Linux system will automatically take care that whatever time and date I have specified, at that time, at that instance, the program will be automatically fired and it will execute. So, let us see how it can be configured. The cron tab file, it is in etc directory. To open this file, we type the command cron tab -e. So, it will give a cron editor in which we type the details like time and date when the program is to be executed, and we also provide the program name. So, let us see how it is done. We enter minutes, hours, weekdays, that is we enter the day of month, the month name, day of week and the command. We enter these fields in the cron tab file. For example, this is our cron tab sample file. It takes line like this 30, 05, 12, 01 star. So, these are the date and time details, and this is the program name. My backup.sh is to be executed on 12th of January. This is 12th is the date, 01 is the month, 5:30 is the time, it is morning 5:30, and irrespective of any day, star this asterisk sign indicates day of week. So, irrespective of any day, I want to execute my backup.sh program on 12th of January at morning 5:30 a.m. Another kind of configuration is shown over here. My script, this is a sample script which I want to execute every day, every month, every year, at every minute and every hour. So, I use all asterisks. When it is all asterisks, it is considered that the script is to be executed every minute, every hour, every minute and every hour, every month, every day, and either it is Sunday, Monday, any day. So, these 5 indicators, they will identify the program when it is to be executed at what time, on what day, and this will give the name of the program that is to be executed. All these configurations, they are stored in the cron tab file. So, these are the possible values which can be entered. Minutes takes from 0 to 59, hours are in 24-hour format, the days of week are in 0 to 6. So, there are 7 weekdays, 0 indicates Sunday, and finally, the last indicator is name of the program or command that is to be executed at particular instance of time. So, to summarize, we have seen how the processes are created, what is the importance of process, what is the importance of thread. Then we also studied the listing of process, how we can list the running processes. We have seen ps command, ps tree and top command to display the list of process. We have also seen how to manage processes, how to bring into background or in foreground mode. So, there are BG/FG command, kill command can be used to stop any process, ampersand sign is applied when we want a process in a background mode, and finally, we have also seen how to schedule processes. So, there are important commands like at command, batch command, jobs command and cron tab through which we can schedule the processes. So, friends, please go through the lecture notes, try to explore the cron tab file and see what can be done. No doubt you will require super user admin privileges in some cases, but at least try to experiment with all these commands and try to schedule a small script at particular date and time. So, till now, thank you so much. Hope to see you in the next module of shell programming.